Thank you. So, we're in the middle of talking about the concept of iskafia. The reason why we do iskafia. The reason why iskafia is important. In other words, the reason why if there's something I want to do, I'm not going to do it, or I'm going to at least delay it for a few minutes or for a minute, simply because I want to do it. And again, this all takes us back to the first parak of Tanya, whereas we explained, the Alter Rebbe asks a bunch of questions, and the Alter Rebbe, he says, but all this will be understood based on the notion that we all have two neshamas, two nefashos. We have two different and distinct personalities. And sometimes, and what Alter Rebbe is basically saying is, in life, there are two ways. We all know that we're battling in life. But what is the battle that we're battling? What is the battle? So many of us, especially when we're looking at it through a Jewish lens, many of us say, what is my battle? The battle is, what am I going to do right now? It's behavior, a behavior battle. Okay, so it's deeper than behavior. It's also even the way I speak and the way I think. But how often do we think about the battle not being about what we do, but about who we are? So again, that's revolutionary and it's based on Tanya. Before Tanya, what do you mean, who am I? There is me, and I can do this or I can do that. I can behave this way, I can behave that way. I can think this way, I can think that way. I can speak this way, I can speak that way. But it's me, right? And there's no choice about who I am. The choice is how the me is going to behave and is going to act. Says the Alter Rebbe, no. The whole Tanya is predicated on the idea, no. Your fight isn't about what you're going to do. The fight is about who you're going to be. Are you going to be your nefesh elokis? Are you going to express your nefesh elokis? Or are you going to express your nefesh habahamis? And here is where one of the big differences is. If I want to eat a piece of cake, and according to the Torah, it's permitted, what reason is there for me not to eat this cake? Or what reason is there at least for me to say, I'll eat it, but in a minute? What's wrong with eating it? From a Jewish standpoint, what's wrong with eating it? And let's say it's, what? So I should say, let's say it's 0 fat and 0 calories and and somehow or other, miraculously, it's not 0 taste. Usually those things go together. Because if my struggle is not what I'm going to do, but who am I going to be at this moment when I have this burning urge for this piece of cake and I eat it? Who am I right now? Am I my nefesh elokis or am I my nefesh habahamis? Am I expressing my godly self, or my more instinctual, natural, impulsive self? And that is the ultimate struggle that we have. The ultimate struggle. There are two things. Yes, there's Torah and there's mitzvahs, and that's all very important, and Hashem wants it. But if all the Hashem wanted was Torah and mitzvahs, Hashem would have made us all tzaddikim. There's the struggle. But what is this struggle? There is within me klipa. Again, what does the word klipa mean? Klipa sounds very bad. What does the word klipa mean? Klipa means simply a shell. Something which is not the truth. Something which obscures the truth. Something which doesn't express the godly reality. So there's klipa within me, the animal soul. There is godliness within me. At any moment in my life, I can choose to be an expression of one of these two flows of energy sources. It's almost as if I have two battery packs and one plug. And my question is, at any moment in time, where am I plugging myself in? Where am I getting my energy from? And what energy am I transmitting with the way I'm behaving, acting, thinking, etc.? The struggle of the nefesh, of the struggle of our struggle, the struggle of the Beinoni, but our struggle is to try to make sure that as much as possible we're plugged in to the godless. So the unplugging from the animal soul, from the nefesh habahamis, has value within itself. So when I don't eat that piece of cake, or when I say I'm going to eat that piece of cake, but I'm going to eat it in 10 minutes, what I've done is, for 10 minutes, and that's a very, very good thing. What I've done is, for 10 minutes, I have expressed my nefesh elokis, and I've done a skafia, meaning I've suppressed my nefesh habahamis, I've suppressed the klipa. Yeah.
What would you say would be a good help for a person to have that, to be prepared? So when an unexpected situation, and almost all situations are unexpected when it comes up, that they don't immediately go to the easy way out, that they think that stop a minute and think, I better plug myself in. How do you do that?
The question is, how do you prepare yourself that for an unexpected situation when you need this eskafia? How do you prepare to be ready for it? That you shouldn't immediately fall back on default status, which is to indulge, give in, do what you want, etc. And here, by the way, we're not even talking about in a case when it's harmful. And obviously, many times it is harmful. Okay, the cake sometimes could be harmful, or other things. There's the first part of this chapter was devoted, we said, to iskafia, to suppressing the animal soul in areas which are forbidden. Now we're moving on even to areas of the permitted. That's a great question. Anyone have any ideas on that? Sorry? Practice. How do you practice the unexpected things? Correct. Yes.
Like when, let's say, somebody criticizes or insults a person, a lot of times the immediate response is to be defensive instead of maybe give it a little thought. You could understand where the other person is coming from instead of trying to protect your own ego.
That just shifted the conversation in a whole different direction altogether. In other words, that's here we're talking about withholding from doing that which you desire, and there you're talking about ego and getting angry, and it's a different conversation. It's a different conversation. But what Liara said is definitely correct. I think it was Liara that we can't prepare for the unexpected without doing first the expected. Now, it's easy for us to say that as long as I'm not 100% rid of or clear of things that are wrong, I do things that are wrong. Is it fear or is it right even for me to focus and say, okay, I'm also going to try to start doing iskafia, and even things that I'm allowed to do, I'm not going to do. Okay, so I'm going to be a big holy person, and I'm not going to eat this piece of cake at least now or for another 10 minutes or whatever. I'm using cake as an example for anything else it may be. The concept of, because I want to do it, I'm not going to do it. But at the same time, I know that there are many other years in my life where I'm not so strong and where I do indulge. And those areas where I do indulge perhaps not only are worse, but they're forbidden. So maybe it's, we always have to do things in order and sequentially. And if you jump too high, usually you come falling down. So the question is iskafia something which is applicable for those of us over here who have not yet mastered our animal soul in those areas which are in other, and we can say that we never give in to the animal soul in the areas that are forbidden. So now my next frontier is going to be even those things that are permitted. So for those of us around here who haven't reached that yet level, that level, is a skafia for us. I'll open that question over here. What are your thoughts on that? You had a thought on that? You know the answer. I don't know the answer. But the piece of cake is an analogy. It doesn't have to be the piece of cake. It can be anything that you want. It doesn't have to. It doesn't have to be food either. Whatever we want, which is the area of it's not good, it's not bad. It's the area of the permitted. But I want. I want to have it. I want to say it. I want to think it. Whatever it may be, because I want, I say no. Either I say no, or I say no, and I delay it, which is also the example, a perfect example of a skafia. Right. In terms of the struggle, the dominance of the nefesh shalakis, it doesn't really matter whether the thing that you want is forbidden or not forbidden. In terms of that struggle, I don't have a definitive answer to that question. Maybe you'll ask 10 different mashpim, they'll give you 10 different answers. It doesn't say here clearly on Tanya whether the exact the Tanya doesn't say even if you're still doing you're still once in a while stumbling in the area of the forbidden, still you should be doing a skafia. But I have a feeling that is a wise idea. And that in general, when we're talking about this again, as we spoke last time, we spoke other times, it's never a good idea to try to grab too much. And we have to know where we're heading for, keep our eye on the target, but at the same time realize that the only way to get there is by taking steps, once in a while. And to come along and say, I'm going to, from today on, I'm committed, that's it, only nefesh shalakis. I'm never going to plug my plug into the Nefesh Muhammad's battery pack. It's just never happening again. I'm never going to do anything forbidden. And in fact, I'm never even going to do anything that I want anymore, because I'm going to be completely godly and holy. That could be a tzaddik, or that could be us also for around 4 minutes. Okay? And then after the 4 minutes, then you're usually not even back by square one. You went back a few spaces after that also, because of the depression and everything else that kicks in, and you get all the spirit. Okay, and I'll never make it. And I'll never be good, and that's it. I'm not going to try. And then all those other bad things that you were holding yourself back, now you suddenly go and you want to do them because there's no point anyways. So the key is always making small steps. We know where we want to go. We commit to small steps. So I could say, I'll try to in this area to do more and more. Let's say, for example, someone who doesn't daven for whatever reason, and the person says, I'm making a commitment to daven. So what would you advise that person? What are you going to daven? Should that person commit not to daven 3 times a day, every single word of davening? Start with Maida Ani. Very good. Okay. Sorry? 1 time a day. Okay. Maybe even you would say 1 time a day, 3 times a week. Right? But we're all in the same. You start small, right? Now let's say we're counseling that person. Give that person some mashpia. Now the person is coming to you, and the person is feeling a spiritual awakening, and the person says, you know what, I feel really bad. I want to start moving up. But and you ask the person, where's your davening? He says, I don't daven. Or she says, I don't daven, whatever it may be. So you're going to advise that. So the person says, I'm feeling very, very spiritual right now. Are you telling me that I shouldn't say any more than Maida Ani? What if I want to daven mincha today? You're telling me I should take baby steps. I get that. You're telling me, but should I not, Or if I tell the person to daven 3 times a week, so and if it's the other day and you're telling me I absolutely shouldn't daven, what would your answer be to that?
I think 1 time is fine, but not to commit, not to get into that and overwhelm oneself with fighting off more than one can chew. But for one time, you don't have to withhold yourself from doing something good.
Okay. And the point, so I think what you're saying is, which I'm thinking, what I would tell a person, again, this is not, it's not, I wouldn't say this is etched in stone. This is my thoughts on the matter. I would say you're committing to do Maidan. That for the next 2 weeks you're committing to make a realistic commitment. You're committing to daven once a whatever it is, once a day or 3 times a week. You can daven you want 100 times a day, but that's not a commitment. The big difference over there. So that if you're up to it, good. And what the difference is, because the commitment makes sure you keep. And the other stuff, okay, if yes, if not, but you're not going to get down on yourself afterwards for not doing it because you never committed to it. And if you're fine with it, and then 2 weeks from now we meet again, it went well, we increase the dosage, Yeah. If you break a commitment, it breaks you. It hurts. And then it causes damage. Psychologically, in other words, I didn't do it, so I can't do it. So when you keep a commitment, you feel good about yourself. You're ready to move to the next stage and to the next stage. That's an important thing. But if you break a commitment, it's difficult. It's spiritually and psychologically difficult. So you could daven as much as you want, but the commitment has to be a small commitment. And in Yiddishkeit, that's an important thing, because we all have very high aspirations for ourselves. When we say taking step by step, that doesn't mean that we're lowering our aspiration. And right now, my only aspiration is this step. That's only my only, and nothing else. No, let's keep a broad mind. I know where I want to go. So if I walk out today from today's class, and I'm all inspired by this notion of Iskafia, and today 30 times today I decide I'm not doing what I want. I have this urge to do something. I don't do it. I delay it. That's great. That's amazing. But don't commit to that, because that's path to destruction. So what could you commit to? Could commit to one thing. I think it's wise to take one thing in the area of the forbidden and one thing in the area of the permitted. So I drink coffee in the morning, every morning. Okay. I'm used to doing it at this time or right after I finish davening. Wait 5 minutes. That's one thing. But basically, Iskafia, what it does is it gets a certain idea through to us. And nothing gets it through to us more than Iskafia. In other words, when I'm tempted to sin and I hold myself back, it's very important that we discussed the value of the struggle. We discussed it in the first part of the chapter. But in a certain extent, I don't think it gets through the idea to me, into my awareness and into my consciousness, this notion that my desires and my wants, where do they come from? They come from the Nefesh Bahamis. Is the Nefesh Bahamis bad? No, it's not. But I have higher aspirations than that. There's bigger and better for me.